Because now is not the time to accommodate the regime and to allow Tehran to dictate our Iran policy. Because I believe the regime is crumbling. I believe the regime is weak, and we are on the moment of major change. Because let's remember, dictatorships tend to fall the way Ernest Hemingway said people go bankrupt. Gradually and then suddenly. So I hope that next year we will be meeting for this global summit in Tehran in a free Iran.
We all know you can't do a deal with a scorpion. And we all know that the only thing the mullah's regime understands is strength and resolve. They want the free world to believe that they're entrenched and powerful. The truth is, they're hated and weak. And there is an alternative ready and waiting in the wings. The end is nigh. Under your NCRI, we can look forward to a freedom-loving, democratic Iran.
It is the false narrative of the government in Tehran that there is no alternative to the government, and therefore the powers of the world must accept the tyrants as permanent and negotiate with them. I said yesterday at this meeting, and I will say again today, that is exactly what Adolf Hitler argued in the 1930s, and unfortunately Neville Chamberlain fell for that argument, went to Munich, signed an agreement which was not even worth the paper it was on, and what was the result? World War II. The reality is that history speaks to the leaders of our country and the leaders of Europe, and they must listen to that history. Going back to a table to talk to the regime in Iran today, which apparently has been happening in Oman, to me is the equivalent of trying to negotiate with a poisonous snake. It doesn't end well and won't end well for us. Is there an alternative to the regime in Iran? Of course there is. It is the overwhelming majority of the people of Iran who want to be free again and live lives equal to those in the rest of the civilized world. And is there an organization ready to lead the transition to power by the people of Iran? Of course there is. It's the NCRI and MEK. There are other opposition organizations to the regime, but I ask you, is there any one of them or gathering of any group of them that could bring together the world leaders who are in this room, the leaders of the parliaments who are just up here? Is there any other organization that has had, no, right, for years, the resistance fighters on the ground in Iran? The NCRI-MEK has earned the right through the leadership of Masoud Rajavi to Maryam Rajavi, decades of fighting against the Shah, against the Ayatollahs, to lead the transition to freedom.
Let me just say that for years, Western leaders have pursued a highly mistaken policy towards Iran. ignoring the crucial role of the Iranian people's resistance movement against the ruling regime. Regrettably, the current policy towards the Iranian regime can only be described as a policy of appeasement. And Speaker Burkov told us all about, in his eloquent remarks, what appeasement is all about. This policy has emboldened the regime to increase its human rights violations, the use of hostage-taking, and support for global terrorism. Now, I was one of the former prime ministers who signed the letter that many people have referred to, urging world leaders to stop this policy. Stop appeasing the criminal leadership in Tehran. Stop giving them new lifelines all the time and help the people of Iran make the regime change come from within, which is what needs to happen. And now that the people of Iran are taking to the streets to call for regime change, a misconstrued policy may become even more unethical and dangerous. Western policymakers have failed to recognize all the tools at their disposal to deal firmly with the religious dictatorship in Iran. They have ignored a key missing element in any successful Iran policy, which is the important role that the resistance movement carries out to support freedom and democracy. By ignoring this, they have indeed fallen into the regime's trap, which seeks to keep the movement hidden and out of sight from the world community.
Let me tell you something about how the life in Ukraine is right now. In cities that are not at war, in peaceful cities like Kiev, in the evening, you go to bed not knowing if you're going to wake up in the morning. Sometimes around 2 a.m. you hear air raid siren. It's a terrifying sound that tells you that there is an attack. And this attack is usually with Russian missiles and Iranian drones. We know the sound of Iranian drones. It sounds like a motorcycle that is passing very close to you, and it is terrifying because it's a huge piece of metal that is coming from the air to kill you or somebody whom you love. And every single time when we're hearing this, we are thinking, how is it possible? How is it possible that Iran and Russia are still able to produce those missiles, those weapons? How is it possible that the sanctions that are imposed on them are not enough to stop them of producing things that are able to kill innocent people over and over again? And this is why we are calling for punishment, for more sanctions, for all authoritarian regimes, Russian, Belarusian, and Iranian, that are taking part in killing innocent people every single day.
Les arrangements entre amis de nos gouvernants avec ces assassins, les questions soi-disant géopolitiques qu'il faut accepter aux chefs d'État d'Europe et d'ailleurs, l'inacceptable qui les amène à bafouer les décisions de justice, à serrer la main, à déboucher, ne font que décrédibiliser un monde politique dont nous, femmes et hommes d'Europe, Iraniennes et Iraniens, jeunes du monde, ne voulons plus. On ne négocie pas avec des maîtres chanteurs terroristes. On ne peut, sans le payer un jour, vendre son âme au diable.